Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're going to be looking at the patch notes for patch 9.2. So this patch is going to release on Thursday morning, and it's going to be 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I believe. But it's going to be early in the morning on Thursday, and then whichever time zone you're in, according to that, will vary around the world, right? But this is going to be the start of the new season. So, of course, I'm going to have tons of coverage for the new season. I'm going to be playing ranked. We'll try to do all of our placements. I don't know if we can do them all in one day. I am off on Friday, but I do have to take care of my daughter, so we'll see how it goes. And I'm likely going to be running on low sleep, as I usually do, going into my class days. So we'll see. But we'll certainly do... we'll do our placements over 1 or 2 days. We'll see where we end up, and then, of course, we'll play a lot throughout the season. I'm also going to have a ton of content here.
This daughter.
Yeah, that daughter.
Camera. That's right.
Yeah, that's right, Rory. Yeah. But I'm going to have a lot of content for you, so I'm going to do a tier list for each role. I'll have a separate video commentary about Silas once we get a bit more information about his final numbers. He's going to get released at some point on this patch. And just a lot of other content as well. I'll see if I can come out with some more new guides. Bye-bye. Good night. So I know that we have an Ashe guide coming up. Ashe, Mordekaiser, Twitch, and one other one that I'll have to double check. But I've got several guides coming up for you that I meant to get to earlier this week, but with all the school stuff, it's taking a bit longer. But anyways, let's go ahead and get in here. Okay, so season start, just a couple of reminders, and I have videos about this stuff out there as well, but just real quick. Placements, you'll get your provisional rank after your first ranked game, so you can kind of see where you stand. Be aware this is going to be much, much lower, right, than where you're probably going to end up. So I don't know why they're doing this. It's just going to freak people out a lot. In the past, they haven't told you your rank until you finish, and so the thought has been... they don't want to give people anxiety. They don't want people to be like, 4-4 and not know where they stand. So they just want to tell you right off the bat after one game where you're going to stand. So that leads me to believe that the first number they're going to give you is going to be some dramatic drop, probably like one full league lower. So if you ended last season Silver 5, don't be surprised if you start at Bronze, or ended last season Silver 4, I guess. What would be the equivalent of Season 4 now, since they got rid of all Tier 5 divisions. You might end up in Bronze 4 to start with. So don't be freaked out about that, because they're saying you can't lose any LP, but you only gain. So they just want to freak people out off the first game, make them go down really low, and then make it feel like they're climbing if they're winning games. So that's how it is. And the reason that I say that is because they say you won't lose LP. They say it's impossible to lose. So even if you go 0-10, you won't go down any further. So that leads me to believe they're going to start you out as though you're 0-10, where they place you here, and then wherever you win, according to that, you're going to gain bonus LP, which is where you would normally be placed anyways if you went like 5-5, right? So if they just start you down 0-10, then you go 5-5, you don't gain anything off of the 5 losses, but you also don't lose anything. You gain 5 LP off the 5 wins, so therefore it's just like you went 50-50 anyways. So they're just trying to create kind of this illusion of gain, I think, in a sense, to just make it be like a feels good. Like the first game is going to be a real feels bad, I think, for a lot of people. But then it's supposed to be a feels good from there on out. Make it feel like you're making some serious gains, you're making some serious climbing, which is, where you would probably end up anyways. But just remember there's a long season too. So if you get trolled in your placements, it's not really a big deal. Remember, there's like 9 months of games. Even if you only play like 1 game a day, you'll probably end up somewhere around 300 games by the end of the season. And that's a lot of time. At the end of the day, 10 games is not really going to matter that much. I know it's fun to get like a really high rank and feel like you have this huge boost, but you're going to hit a wall eventually anyways. There's going to be challenges along the way. No one goes straight up unless you're like a challenger smurf. So don't get too freaked out about the placements. I know it's cool to get hype about it, but at the same time, try to hold back the negativity as much as possible if you get trolled in a few of those placement games, because it's going to happen. And just keep in mind in general also that as the season starts, when you have a whole bunch of elos like squished together, you're also going to have people that haven't played in a long time. So people maybe haven't played the entire preseason, right? So maybe they haven't played in 2 or 3 months. They're just now going to be coming back. Some people could actually literally get kind of lucky you know, in their first 5 games, maybe they get carried. And then they end up in your 6th game and they just get obliterated by somebody else. So, like, maybe someone who was, I don't know, who was Silver 4 last time just gets completely, you know, just carried in their first 5 games or whatever. Then they end up going against somebody who was, like, Gold 4. But that Gold 4 person got trolled in a lot of games. So they went 0-5 in their first ones. Then they go up against this Silver 4 guy and they completely smash him. Right, so that can happen. So there's just going to be wild sort of fluctuations in skill because a lot of it's going to be based on a very small sample size of data early on in the season. And, like, all the challengers are going to be placed into Plat 1. So you'll have, like, challengers, masters, maybe some high diamond people all compressed in Platinum 1. So just be aware that that's kind of the norm. If you're going to play, it's going to be even more clown rodeo than usual. So that's just what you sign up for when you play early in the season. Some people ask me, well, should I even play ranked? Should I let people settle in, you know, over the first couple of weeks and then play ranked? Well, that's up to you. But like I said, at the end of the day, it's really not going to matter that much where you get placed in your 10 games. It's going to be how you progress as a player over the course of the whole season. And if you are playing at a higher level than people around you, you will climb. So I wouldn't worry about it. I would just play it. But just be aware there will be a bit more sort of turbulence early on. Okay, they added Iron before Bronze. They added Grandmaster between Challenger. Grandmaster's not going to matter for the vast majority of people. Iron is a feels bad. I've talked about this in the past. I really wish they did something above Bronze or above Silver, because now there's something even lower than Bronze, so that's like even worse than the meme. And so that's going to be a feels bad for a lot of people, because a lot of people are going to get placed into Iron. Just keep in mind that, like, the distribution is going to be similar in terms of skill level, right? So something might be called Iron 2 when previously it was Bronze 4 or something like that, right? But you're playing against the same kind of people, you know, the same skill level of people. It's not changing the skill level at all. All it is just sort of redistributing people and just adding a little bit of extra differentiation in there. But ultimately, if you work on becoming a better player, you will climb. So especially if you were in Bronze last season, you get placed in Iron this season, that's normal. That's standard. It sucks that there is an Iron division, but that's what, in the past, if you've played for several seasons and been Bronze, you know, you may have been Bronze 4, and then you always get placed into Bronze 4 or Bronze 5 at the beginning, and that's not much of a move or a difference. And so you're like, okay, no big deal. Well, now this is what everybody has to deal with every season. Gold players always get placed into Silver. A lot of times Platinum players get placed into Gold at the start. And this is just an evolution of that. Now you're going to have Bronze players getting placed in Iron. So, you know, I know it's going to suck. I know, you know, there might be some people in the media out there belittling Iron people, but but just work hard, be diligent, you know, have fun, and you will climb if you end up, you know, getting a little bit better. Not a huge deal. Okay. Now, whatever people show you, this armor stuff is going to be based on your current rank. I like that. So, you know, people can't just kind of rest on their laurels and what they got last season. There's going to be 3 splits. It says there's not going to be a reset or any time off between splits, so you just presumably will get some different rewards maybe between each split. I'm not really sure what the point in a split is if there's no, like, reset. But anyways. Okay, and then they're doing positional rank. I've talked about that before in a past video. I think that's a really good thing because it's going to fix, or it's not going to fix, but it's going to help the auto-resolve problem a lot, particularly at kind of higher elos like Gold Plus. It can be a really big deal if you have someone who is placed in the top lane, for example, against a top lane main, you know, who's played thousands of games in top, and someone who's playing it for like the 5th time. It's really bad. So now if someone gets placed into an off role, then they're going to be playing in a lower elo bracket so that it'll be more fair for everyone in the game, not just for that person, but for everyone. Because in some sense, it's not really their fault, right? Like, it's unreasonable for most people who play this game, maybe 2 games a day, that want to play their favorite position, that want to play their favorite champions. It's not reasonable for them to know how to play all 5 roles to an equal level, right? And they're going to get up to whatever their rank is, most likely by playing their one role that they're good at most of the time. And so everyone's like, God, why can't you play top? Or God, why can't you play jungle? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, because I don't play the game for 8 hours a day. That's what most people would say. You know, and so this is going to help that. So it's unfair to try to think that, you know, Jim Smith, who plays the game 2 days a week can become a master of every role. You know, he's probably having a hard enough time trying to master the one role that he plays most of the time. So this is going to help out a lot with that. Now, yes, there are some abuse cases where people can duo and switch roles and, you know, all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, they are at, or another one is like people not being motivated and just like throwing games on purpose if they get their off role because it's not going to affect their main rank. But they have implemented a splash system. They have a whole video about this, by the way. So you can just watch, you know, number 9 and number 10 here. I'm just giving you the TLDR. Is that pretty much if you throw a lot of games, it will detect this and it will splash to your other elos. So if you always get top lane and you always throw because you don't care and you're a mid lane main, you will start losing elo on your mid as well as your top. And there's going to be some what they're calling splash anyways, which means whenever you win one game with one of your roles, your other roles are slightly affected. So if you win a game of support, you get 20 LP. You know, all of your other roles might gain 3 LP or 5 LP or something like that. So it still does affect your main, even when you're off-roll, just not as much. So that's kind of the middle ground they're searching for, is like, if you lose a game because you're off-rolled or because your top laner never plays top and goes 0-10 or something like that, it won't affect you, you know, as much over time if that happens. Okay. So overall, I think it's a good thing. They're trying to work out the exploits, but I think it's good from a balance perspective to start off assuming honest people and then work your way to the deviants and how to punish them and how to, like, rein in some exploits in the system. So I think for honest people, this is going to be good for the reason I described, the main reason, which is when people get filled, it's going to be a much more fair game for everyone involved. They said they can't get rid of autofill because it would triple the queue times, at least. And so I agree, if that's what the number is, if it's triple queue times, then they can't get rid of it. You know, people don't want to be waiting 10 minutes for a game. So it already takes a really long time to go through all of the bans, to go through all the picks, and then if someone dodges, you have to get back in and all that kind of stuff. So it already takes like 10 minutes to start a game realistically. So I like this. I think it's a really good compromise. But let's go ahead and talk about the patch notes themselves. That's just a real quick primer on what was going on. Like I said, I'll go over Silas. I'll have to see some of the ranges on his stuff, particularly his hook and like the width of it. I haven't really watched a lot of videos on him. My sense is that he'll probably be okay. I mean, I could look at him really quick, just sort of his numbers. Where is he? But I'm going to make a whole different video about him. Okay, this looks pretty weak to me. It's like you get a little bit of bonus damage, or a little bit of extra AP. It's okay. So like in a sustained fight, if he becomes a sustained tank, that could be good. I don't know if he's going to be able to be a sustained tank. His base health is pretty high. His health regen is pretty high. This seems really weak to me. A lot of people, I feel, are going to be able to walk out of this, but maybe not. It says it does delay after, or it does activate after half a second. But the slow's only 15% early on. So I think a lot of people are going to walk out of this, and if that's the case, it's going to be very little damage. It does have low mana cost. I don't know the range on it. I don't know how far you can do it. I don't know how hard it is to cross the chains in the place where you want them. So I don't know those quality of life things, but it looks fairly weak to start with. It's good if you chain it together, if you're able to hook somebody and then chain that together. That could be some decent damage, but it's not anything that's like eye-popping damage. Now, this does pretty decent damage. You know, if someone's below, it's like, wow, you do extra damage. But the base number is really low, right? It's only 188. Going to 270, I mean, that is a pretty big hit, but there are a lot of champions that do 270 off of just like a baseline hit. So it'll be okay. I'm pretty sure this is melee. It says it lunges. Maybe not melee, but like 300 range. It strikes me as something that's probably really short range. If it's not, if it's like longer than 500 or 550, like longer than an auto attack range, it could potentially be good. Now, the heal is pretty massive. Heal Silas doubled if he's below 40%. That's pretty big heal. That's a pretty big heal. So that is interesting. It has a really long cooldown, though. So we'll see. And then this has a really long cooldown, too. This is his hook effect. I guess in terms of a hook, it's not that bad. We don't know the range on it, or I don't know the range on it. I don't know the width. I don't know the wind-up. You have to really see the animation on hooks. Is it a blitzcrank hook? Is it a thresh hook? Is it a nautilus hook? All of those have a very different feel to them. So low damage, like really low damage, low ratio. It does give you a small shield with a nice AP ratio, so we'll see. The fact that you can dash Now, I don't know if he can go over walls. If he can go over walls with this dash, and I don't know the range on the dash, but if he can go over walls, you know, that's going to make that a lot better. But we'll see. The fact that he can, like, dash around a skill shot and then hook somebody, if it's, like, a 500 dash or even, like, a 400 dash or something, like a decent dash where you can actually dodge stuff rather than something that's cute, he could be really strong. Once again, I know there's Silas footage out there. I've just been so busy, I haven't really, like, watched that footage, so I'm just waiting on it to get released and just to play it out, you know, just to play it a couple of games at normals or something, just get a feel for it myself. But that's okay. And then the stealing of the ultimate is cool. It's got 200% of the ultimate's cooldown per champion, so you can still grab other champions if you want. This is going to be very dependent on, like, what's going on in the game. If you're able to grab stuff like Karthus or Soraka or Kennen or, you know, some of these game-breaking ults, it could be really good. If you're grabbing things like Udyr or Caitlyn, Nidalee, I don't even know if it'll let you grab those champions. I'm not sure. But, like, if you're grabbing stuff like that or just things that are really, like, combo-dependent, like Syndra ult or something, you know, it's just a really weird mechanic, and we'll have to see how it works. I think there are going to be some really good targets for this, and there are going to be some really bad targets for this. So we'll see. His itemization is something that I'm really questioning. You know, he has really nice AP ratios, but he's a close-range melee champion, and there aren't many, like, close-range melee AP type of champs. I mean, you've got, like, Kassadin, you've got Echo, maybe, like, Rumble. So there are some things out there like this. But he has to get real close. You know, like, Kingslayer feels really close. You know, Abscond, you're getting into melee combat. You ostensibly don't have an escape, a way to get out of combat after you go in with this. Hijack, I believe, is really close range. So I just don't know how you don't die if you're building AP. Like, I think he's going to have to build tank, especially as a support. I'm thinking as a support because I think that's where he'd be most likely able to shine. Maybe he can go top lane. We'll see. But anyways, I'll have to see the numbers. I'll have to get a feel for it. But his itemization seems very weird to me. I just don't know what you would buy. His mana costs aren't that high, so I feel like you don't need a mana item. So you're not going to be getting Ludens. I mean, I guess you could just get something like a standard Sork Boots Morellonomicon type of build. It seems like he'd be really bad for Liandry's. Lichbane, maybe? But Lichbane's not great to rush early. Rod of the Ages. Rod might be pretty good on him. That'd give him the health so he doesn't get blown up immediately. And give him some mana and some AP. So maybe Rod. Maybe Rod into Lichbane. Deathcap, like, maybe is too expensive. I guess Proto Belt. Okay, he could Proto Belt. It's what a lot of the melee type of champs get. So maybe he could go, like, Rod, Proto Belt, Lichbane as a build. I guess there will be. We'll just have to see. But he strikes me as, like, it'll be a bit difficult, especially as supports, because most of the support AP items, it's usually just Morellonomicon and Liandry's, and you really have to be aggressive early on and get serious advantages in your lane to make champions like Zyra and Brand work. And he doesn't appear to me like he's going to be able to do that. So, I don't know. We'll see. Interesting. Could be very strong. My thought is he's going to be kind of I don't know. I think he would probably get outclassed, but he'll certainly be pretty cool. Okay. Aatrox, so this did change from what the PBE said. It said the first hit was going to have its damage lowered. No, all 3 hits have their damage lowered. Okay, so it's his ratio, though. So early game, this isn't going to matter as much. It is total attack damage ratio, not bonus attack damage. So I guess it does matter early, but it's going to matter a lot more later on. But you level this up first. Like, really, is a 0.3 going to matter when you already have a 4.5 ratio? The base damage is unchanged. You know, early on, losing the 9 matters, but, like, the 0.09, but the 0.05 here, does that matter? I mean, maybe that gives him some windows of weakness in lane a bit more. 2 seconds on his Umbral Dash. I think he's still going to be really strong. Obviously, this will nerf his all-in a little bit, but he still has insane healing. He still has, like, really good presence later on, really good itemization. In solo queue, he doesn't even have like an insane win rate right now, so I don't know, you know, like in silver, gold, that type of stuff, if that's going to matter too much. But as far as pro play, he might go down the list a little bit. Keep in mind that in pro play, he's basically pick banned every game. He's a 50% win rate in plat. So that's pretty good for a lot of these OP champs that have been nerfed a lot for pro play. You've got your Akali's, your Irelias, all that stuff. They have a really low win rate in solo queue a lot of the time. And so the fact that he's sitting at 50%, even though, you know, he's getting nerfed a lot, even though he's banned a lot, right? He's banned 34% of the time. Let me see here. So this is a compilation of all the picks and bans over the last week or so. Yeah, over the last 7 days, 28 total games. So he's banned in 28 games. He was banned in 19 of them, and he was picked in 5. So he has a 24 out of 28 presence. It's a lot. It's like over an 80% presence. It looks like he's 2-3, right? Well, that's over like a whole season or something. Season 9. So this is his overall win rate, not just this week. But yeah, this is just for this week, I think. Maybe. I don't know. Anyways, he's really good. I think he'll still be viable. Okay. And especially the fact that they're nerfing Irelia and Urgot a lot more than they're nerfing him is so, like, he's losing a little bit of power, but they're losing a lot of power. And so that means he's going to be even stronger, if that makes sense, right? So, like, he's losing 3, they're losing 6, you know, on, like, a scale of 10. It's not that extreme, but y'all get what I'm saying, the concept. They're losing more than he is, even though he is losing. So that might make him stronger. Okay, Star Surge. Now, this is something a lot of people are hyping up. I'm not even sure this is a buff. I ran some of the numbers on this. Like, basically, you have to charge it up for over 3 seconds to make the stun what it once was. Because it says it scales up to 5, assuming it scales linearly. I mean, if after 2 seconds it's already at 99% of its full stun, and then the last 3 seconds are just for fun, then maybe that's a thing. But I'm assuming that it's scaling linearly. So that means, like, every second it scales the same amount up to 5 seconds. So the recast time being shorter is nice. So that means you can basically, it's going to be easier to stun melee champions that are in your face. But it's a much lower stun, right? And I assume you max this second. I'm not sure, though. But either way, I ran the numbers on it. And at max level anyways, you know, going from a 1.5 second stun. Now remember, if you did it point blank, you know, they're right in your face. After 0.65 seconds, you would do 1.5 second stun. Guaranteed, you know, if it hits them. Now you can get up to 2.25, which sounds great. It's like, wow, that's a really long stun, but it takes 5 seconds to charge that up. So to get back to, you know, the 1.5 seconds, what you originally had, now you have to charge it for somewhere between 3 to 4 seconds in order to get 1.5 seconds, let alone the big bonus. So I think this is actually a nerf to Aurelian Soul. Like, it's a buff, sort of, against melee champs, but you're only getting, like, half the stun duration if you do it instantly a lot of the time. Like, literally half, like 0.75. So it's like, yeah, that's better than nothing, but against people that were, like, just a little bit further away from you, near your outer circle or whatever, then it's going to be a much, much lower stun. So, you know, I think it's a nerf. I think it's a nerf in most situations to Aurelian Soul, which kind of sucks because he's a cool champ. I wish there was more of him. Brand, this is a pretty significant nerf to Brand, especially when we look at the Oblivion Orb nerf that's coming here in just a little bit, but that's 25% less damage on his passive. Now, keep in mind also with Brand's passive, this is not just going 4% to 3%. It can stack up to 3 times. Right, so this is going from 12% to 9%, so it's 3% difference, right? People forget that sometimes, is it stacks 3 times. Now, when it stacks that 3rd time, people explode, but they still take this damage over time. They still take the 9% in addition to the explosion damage. So this was doing, you know, somewhere close to, you know, 16 plus 9%, 25% of their total health. Oh, they've changed it now. So now it's doing 25%. It used to do 28%. So Not as big of a deal if you get the explosion on them, but going from 12% to 9% on some light poke can be a big deal. Now, obviously, if you get all three, they're going to explode. So I guess the main sort of feels bad part would be if you only got 2 parts on them. And then that would be going from 8% to 6%. So he'll still probably get picked. I still think Zyra's better than him. She does get nerfed on this patch, but it's basically nothing. So this just inches her a little bit ahead of him. Okay. So he'll still get picked. He'll still be okay. You know, his win rate still going to be pretty high. So it's like 52.5% right now. So he'll still be fine. He might lose like 0.5% or something. Okay, Cassiopeia, this is a joke. This is the complete wrong thing. I talked about this on the stream. Like, they need to understand why Cassiopeia is really strong right now. And I'll explain it to people out there. I've explained this on the stream a lot, but I get asked about it a lot too. So I'll explain it again just really quickly. And check out my tier list. I've talked about Cassiopeia as a top tier AD carry and as a top tier mid laner. For the last like 4 patches, I was really early on this train. We're talking about why she's really strong. So what happened with Cassiopeia is people realized that most of the damage on Twin Fangs derives from your base damage per level. So this is a really weird ability. It's based on what level you are is how much the base damage does, and its ratio. So if someone is poisoned, they basically have a 0.7 ratio per Fang, and then the rest of it is based on your level. So if you're level 9, it's 84 base damage, you have 100 AP, it'd be plus 70, so it'd be 154 base damage. If you level up your E, the only advantage that you get is 20 damage per level. That's it. It doesn't change the ratio. It doesn't change the base damage. It doesn't change how much you're healed. All it changes is 20 base damage. So, you know, if you have 2 points in this, instead of doing 154 damage, you do 174 damage, which is like, okay. But most abilities, by comparison, a lot of abilities go up by at least 30. Some of them go up by 50 if you're looking at like other mages. So if we were to look at Kassadin or something, his Q probably goes up by 40 per level. So the fact this only goes up 20 is terrible. Also, it becomes much, much more expensive. So it costs 10 extra mana to get 20 damage. That is awful. That's such a terrible ratio. That would be like paying 100 mana for something that does 200 damage. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, it's really bad. So what people have discovered then is they're like, okay, well, what if we don't even put any points? We put like 1 point in Twin Fang. We max Q. This gives us better wave clear. It gives us better poke. It's got 850 range, which is really far for a mage. It has pretty good damage, and it increases our speed, you know, from 30% to 50%. So if we max Q first, we're getting 20% extra speed on these hits. This is actually going up by 45 per level, a normal amount. It has a good ratio. It's on a low cooldown also. Max this. So if you max your Q and you only put 1 point in E, you're still doing a lot of damage off of both of these. And because you get this 20% extra damage, that means you don't have to take Phase Rush, because that was something everyone got before on her. And since you don't have to take Phase Rush anymore because you're getting 20% free speed that you didn't used to get, now you can go Comet. And Comet works so well with Noxious Blast because it's a damage over time, which is going to reduce the cooldown on Comet by a lot. And then Twin Fangs is something you can spam now, especially that it's only going to be 40 mana to do like 150 damage, which that's a good ratio. You know, that's like almost a 4-to-1, right? In that scenario, payout. Whereas, like, remember, you're only getting a 2-to-1 payout by upgrading this, in terms of like how much mana you're paying for how much damage you're getting. And so this just completely revolutionized the way that Cassiopeia is played, because now you don't have to take Phase Rush. You can take a damage rune like Comet, and because you actually do a lot more damage early on with Comet, and the fact that you're getting a lot more efficiency out of this, 45 damage versus 20 damage, now that you have all that damage, you become an early game bully instead of a late game scaler. So now you can go something like a Luden's early, skip the rod, skip the tier, and just start blowing people up, being a lot more aggressive early on, so you don't really have that weak point that Cassiopeia classically has had while she's charging up her tier and her rod, you know, between like 10 and 20 minutes. She historically has been very vulnerable, and now she's not anymore. And so you just max your Q, and then you max your W next because it gives a much longer slow. That's the main thing, is you get a lower cooldown, and a much longer slow. The damage doesn't matter. Most people will waddle out of it beforehand. It's just the slow is going to allow you to where they can't jump, and it's going to allow you to hit them with more Twin Fangs. So that's the revolution, and that's what makes Cassiopeia so strong. So what would they need to do to actually balance this? Make people put points in Twin Fang. Or just say, look, if you're not going to put points in Twin Fang, you're going to do significantly less damage. So what I would do is I might just get away with this stupid thing here. I know they've done this in the past, or like Cassiopeia used to not have to rely on this. I would just get away with the per level base damage and just put it over here. And just say, look, if you're not putting points in E, you're not doing damage. Basically, or you're doing a lot less damage. If they want to have a base, fine. But lower the base and then add on like more here. So make it like at least 30 per level. I'm not saying give her a lot more damage on her Twin Fangs, but I'm saying like lower the base and increase the amount that she gets per point in it so that it's net neutral in terms of power. But overall, she has to choose, do I want this really efficient build, you know, with Comet and Noxious Blast and not having to get Rod of the Ages and Tier, or do I want to go for like more sustained damage early? So do I want the poke damage or do I want the sustained damage? It should be a choice that she has to make. Right now, she doesn't have to make it. She gets all of it. The reason you don't have to go Tier and Rod is not only you're doing so much damage, but remember, this only costs 40. So it's much, much spammable. More spammable than it was before. Okay. So that's the story of Cassiopeia, and she's very good against control mages. She's pretty good against a lot of assassins, too, if she manages to land her Petrifying Gaze. But especially against things like Lysandra, trying to think of Galio. There's just a lot of stuff that she's really good against mid lane. There aren't many things that completely wreck her. And you can still even go Tier Archangels if you want to. It's slightly slower than the Ludens in terms of the damage, but you do stack Tier really quickly, and that does give you a shield, which helps you against all ends later, so... anyway, she's still going to be super strong. So they're like nerfing her W by a minuscule amount, but it's really not going to matter. The damage is not why you're leveling W. She already does an overabundance of damage, and 2 extra seconds kind of matters late game, but realistically, you're only casting this once per fight anyways. So, yeah, she's still going to be on top. Okay, Galio. This is a very significant nerf to Galio. Especially the mana cost. You always max your Q first. It's 30 extra mana. 30 extra mana. So now they're basically saying, look, you got to have some serious mana items here. You know, you can't just get away with like 1 mana item and spam everything. Like Luden, spam everything. This is going to be like real serious mana. So you might even have to have double mana items. You might have to go like Rod. Maybe like Rod Ludens or something on him if you still want to keep the AP build. Or he could go, conversely, he could go something like, you know, Abyssal Mask and get a little more mana that way. But that's a lot of extra mana. And then the Wind Blast damage is down a little bit, you know. Early on, it's not going to matter. The Wind Blast, I believe, is when the stuff comes together, the tornado portion of it. And the ratio is down. So it's only 0.75 from 0.9. Or actually, no, the Wind Blast are the things that go to the side. Okay, so this is the stuff that usually hits them. So that's going down to 20. Or going down 20, I think. Yeah. And then that's going down to 2% of the target's max health per 100. So the scaling is down a little bit. So if you have 200 or 300, it's going to be a lot less. And then Justice Punch is going down 20 at early levels. I'm pretty sure that's what you max second with AP Galio. So we might still see him. The mana cost is the big thing. That's going to hurt like his just all-in wave clear more. But people might be able to invent other ways to still make him strong. If he gets more mana items in his build. Or if he finds some other way to generate mana. Maybe if he gets blue a lot more often now. He was excessively powerful, particularly in pro play, I think. So he'll probably still find some play. I mean, I guess he wasn't... He was banned a lot. So he was banned 16 times and picked 4. So, yeah, pretty good. We'll see. I think we might still see him, but... maybe he can't go Aftershock anymore. I guess he would still go Aftershock. I don't know. We'll see. He's still... my intuition is he's still going to be viable. He still could be strong. But he's going to be dialed back a little bit. Okay, Irelia, I think these are actually really huge nerfs to Irelia. So I'm happy about this. So she no longer breaks shields with her passive. So this is going to hurt her in a lot of matchups in the top lane. It may not seem like it's that big. It's like, okay, it helps her against Janna. But it helps her against a lot of things in the top lane. Most notably, like Urgot and Victor get shields for their all-ins that are really strong. Especially Urgot is still really popular. You see Victor some solo queue champions like Riven. This is going to help out Riven a ton in that matchup. She's obviously going to get a shield. Camille gets that shield, you know, for like physical damage. I assume it applies to Camille's shield as well. So it's not going to break Camille. Now, Camille's shield is not that huge, but it'll hurt her there. Sion is another matchup in pro play. Oftentimes that you see in the top lane, it's going to hurt her ability to carve through Sion. So it's going to be very, very relevant in a lot of matchups top lane that she loses that. This is perhaps the biggest one, though, is she's not going to be able to instantly clear the wave, I don't think, anymore. Look at these nerfs. So it used to be double damage. So if she was doing like 200 damage, it would do 400, and she could just zip around and clear the whole wave almost instantly. Now it goes to, and it gets rid of the 0.6 total attack damage ratio, too. So, you know, after you get your phage or whatever, and like per level scaling, it's not bonus, it's total. You know, you were probably doing 60 extra damage off of that, right? And so at rank, when you have 5 points in this at rank 9, you're probably doing at least 145 damage. Now you're only doing 105. And that 145 used to double. So it used to be 290 damage to minions off of your Q. Now it's only this flat bonus, right? So now you're only doing 100 plus 105, which actually it doesn't even have the 0.6 on it anymore. So it's only 105 instead of, you know, whatever it was before. So that's a lot. So I think she's going to have a hard time clearing waves early on. She does get Tiamat as well, so that does help her clear early on. So we'll just see. I just feel like this is going to hurt her wave clear, particularly early on before she gets a lot of extra damage and gets a lot of extra points in this. So she can be pushed in and bullied early on a lot more, I think. Vanguard's Edge doesn't last as long at later ranks. People aren't going to sit in there 2.5 seconds and wait it out anyways. Either they're going to have a way to get out or not. So I don't think that's going to matter too much. Losing the disarm is probably relevant for like an 80 carry. Maybe it's trying to kite you, but the extra slow is a big deal. And the wall damage, doing a lot more is a big deal as well. So, I mean, getting 100 extra damage on that at rank 16 is pretty huge. So if someone steps on that wall, that's a big oops. So I think it's a big nerf. This might actually be a buff on her R. But I do think this is a nerf, particularly in popular matchups she's likely to face, and I think this is a big nerf to her wave clear. So I think she'll still be viable. I think she'll still be good in some matchups, but I just don't think she's going to completely run all over people that know like how to play against her in lane. Jarvan getting an extra 5% bonus attack speed. Now, it does remind you Jarvan always gets this bonus, and then when he throws down the flag, he gets double bonus. So this will help out Jarvan. I mean, it's basically 10% extra attack speed in the jungle. I'm just not really sure why he hasn't played a lot in the jungle. I think he's just not as good at dueling as champions like Kha'Zix and Camille. I think Camille has become the new Jarvan, basically, where she's just a lot more aggressive, she's a lot more mobile, and she has that lockdown capability with her ult. And people actually can't dash out of Camille's thing. Like, that's another thing that's changed about the game, is there's so much mobility. All of the popular 80 carries right now can get out of this, you know. I guess Vayne can't technically get out of it, but she can pin him into his own wall and at least buy some time. But, like, Lucian and Ezreal can jump out of it. Tristana can jump out of it. Caitlyn can net out of it. So most of the mainstream 80 carries, I don't think Kai'Sa can't run out of it. She can go invisible temporarily, but it's just like his ult isn't as impactful as it used to be in seasons past because of all the mobility. Just like every role, you know, almost every champion's going to have some way to get out of this. So he'll be okay. He's a good sort of, you know, role player jungler. So if junglers do kind of get hurt a little bit, like they are getting hurt some, but if they get hurt, you know, over the next couple of patches, we start to see tank junglers again. Maybe you can see Jarvan, but I think if tanks do come back, he's going to get crowded out by things like Sejuani and Gragas. So he's okay. He's all right. He'll, you know, he's probably not like totally in the dumpster. I would say he's probably like a 50, 49, 50% win rate champ right now. I don't know precisely. Yeah, he's 50%, so it's not like he's terrible. It's all right. This will help him out a little bit, but I don't think it's going to shift the meta around him. Jax, super minor buff. This is laughable. They're going from like a 380 nerf to like almost literally like a 280 nerf. What? He has 68 AD to start with. Are you kidding me? You know, if we look at like other champ, I don't even know. It just seems really high to me. Maybe not. I guess Talon starts at 68 also, but Talon's an assassin. Jax is like a bruiser. What does Camille start with? 68. Okay, maybe I'm just crazy. I'm feeling like maybe it's just 80 carries kind of get the shaft on that with their base damage. What does Vayne start at? Yeah, Vayne starts at 60. That's what I'm used to looking at is 80 carries. So I guess that the melee champions just start with a lot more AD, which makes sense because they're not ranged. But either way, it's not going to matter that much. I mean, his early game trades with Leap Strike, I'm pretty sure Leap Strike is what you max first. So yeah, 15 damage at level 1 is significant. Not that you're trying to all in at level 1 anyways, but, you know, by level 5, it starts to not matter as much. And like late game, it's not going to matter. This still has the crazy ratios. It's a 1.0 bonus attack damage with a 0.6 Q ratio, and just the interaction with him and Essence Reaver is just ludicrous right now, where he can pretty much always keep up his dodge. What's up? I don't know, 20 minutes. Okay. So I think that I don't think it's going to matter that much. I mean, maybe for early game bullies, like Riven or something in the Jax, maybe early game bullies can really wear him out a bit more, but I think he's still going to be high impact. And in the jungle, I don't think it's going to matter that much. And that's where he's usually played in most elos. So Jax is still going to be strong. I think he has a high win rate, right? Isn't he like at least 52, 53%? Yeah, he's almost 53%. Huge ban rate, decent pick rate, and then top lane. I think at like higher elos, he's better at top. But 50%. The fact that Urgot and Irelia are getting nerfed is definitely going to help Jax out a little bit, though. And Aatrox. So once again, he's getting a small nerf. Other people are getting bigger nerfs, in the top lane at least. And so that ecosystem is going to help him out. They're also nerfing some of the early game aggression. I guess a lot of junglers don't take Ignite. Some things like Shaco do. But the nerf to Ignite and the nerf to some runes like Absolute Focus for some of these like really early game all-in powerhouse junglers ultimately will probably benefit him. The XP changes are kind of a wash. I'm not sure. He isn't the fastest power farmer, so that probably hurts him a little bit, but I think he'll still be fine. He'll still be about the same percentage. Kassadin losing 4 armor early on. Armor growth is, you know, 2.8, so that doesn't matter. This is 4 armor by level 10. Is okay. He's losing some here. Now, LS laughed at this because he was like, you know, in his patch notes, he's saying, oh, someone lost in silver to Kassadin or whatever and put these notes in there. Kassadin's terrible. I'm like, he's not statistically at most elos if you look at him. He's got a 51% win rate right now. He's very frustrating, and LS was just like, well, just play around his, you know, play around his shield. Wait till his shield is down off his Q. It's like, that's true. But the thing is, like, he gets so much regeneration. It's that build with his runes. Because historically, I mean, LS is back thinking about Season 3 and 4 when you could actually punish Kassadin in lane, when there were not any sustained things he could take, right? Where you stuck damage to him. If you hit him with things, he was hurt, and he had to back at bad times, and you could just sort of bully him out and go up 30 CS early. You can't do that anymore with him, right? Because he's going to take Fleet Footwork, and then he's going to take Taste of Blood, and he's going to take Ravenous Hunter. And I think he might still even go Corrupting Potion early on. So he has like 4 or 5 different ways to sustain through the lane, or he could even take Doran's Shield in like a really hard matchup, maybe. That's a little weird, but maybe. And then it's easier for him to last hit than ever because they made the mana cost on his W cost 1 mana. So that's a free last hit that otherwise would cost you a lot of mana to hit. And so it's a different game than he used to be out. So he is still very frustrating if you do not kill him. Like, poking him out is not enough. You have to gank and kill him before he gets to 6. And he can farm relatively safely and not fall that far behind. When I see Kassadin in my games, he's almost always even. Even with other bullies, you know, in the laning phase. Even against, like, Cassiopeia or something, I see him as, like, relatively going even. Now, maybe that's not happening at Challenger. Let me see, like, Masters games here. You know, maybe that's not happening up in the rafters as much. He's 54%. In, like, Masters Plus. He's 54%. So he's even better up at high-level play in solo queue. And he's still banned a decent amount. He's picked a decent amount. Look at this. Where... Pick rate. I thought he was like 6. Yeah. I mean, he's the what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. He's the 13th most picked champ. So yeah, it's not insane, but it's in the top 25% of picked mid laners. So he does have decent representation up at high elos, and definitely at low elos, you know, people don't punish him and he just starts stomping. So he's very, very good. So this is going to hurt his matchup against Pantheon, against Zed, against Talon. So that's good. I think that's ultimately a good thing for the game. He's a very toxic champion. He's so hard to stop late game. And so he deserved a nerf. LS, it's not like it's a troll nerf. It's a real nerf. But anyways. Okay, Kayn. I'm not going to read all that there, but basically the gist of it from what I understand is he's going to like get his thing a lot faster. Basically, his red form and his blue form are going to share one bar now, and whichever bar has the most representation is what he's going to be able to change into. And now it's 500 instead of 400. So previously, if there's mixed champions in the game, if there's a mix of like ranged and solo champs, maybe you would end up getting, like, by the time you transform, you might have, you know, 400 for red Kayn and 250 for blue Kayn or whatever. So you got to 400 with reds, then you get to transform. Now that'll be much, much faster. Now you could get, like, 250 with red Kayn and just 150 with blue Kayn, and you transform, right? So before, you know, I don't know what the average was. I don't play Kayn a lot, but I would say the average before was probably at least 600 points, you know. Unless you're just strictly damaging only one type of champ, like if every single person in the game is playing a melee champion or something like that, or everybody's playing a ranged champion, which I guess could happen, then maybe it was faster to transform into blue off of that. But now I feel like this is faster because I feel like it'd be at least 600, right? So when you get to 400, it's likely there's at least 200 that you would have had from the other type. I mean, I guess if you just completely camp one lane super hard, like you camp a melee lane, top lane, over and over and over again, and they keep dying to it, or you keep getting hits off of it, and it's just very successful, maybe that was faster if you just, like, power farmed a single lane that gave you a single type, right? But if you're realistically moving around, touching other lanes, you know, touching the jungler, you're just dealing with all kinds of different champion types, I think this is going to be a lot faster. And I think you're going to have a lot more control over it because now, you know, all you have to have is, you know, 251 of one type of champion, right? You can have 251 towards red Kayn and 249 towards blue Kayn, and you will be able to transform into red Kayn if you want to. So I think overall this is really good. I think he's going to transform faster. I think that's going to free up his roots so you don't feel like you have to camp the person that's going to give you red Kayn. And so I think that's going to open him up a lot. So I think we'll see him a lot. I think his win rate's probably going to go up significantly, especially now that, like, you can power farm a little bit more early on. I mean, he's a good ganker, but he's also good at farming things like raptors and golems. So I think this is very good for him. And if you want to switch your type, you can do that. So yeah, I think that's ultimately really good for him, and they gave him a couple of decent buffs to Shadow Form. Being able to jump 500 away is significant. So I think it's good. I think it's very good for Kayn. I think Kayn's very viable right now in most elo brackets. if we go down to like gold. I think. I mean, I see him in my games, and it's not like, oh my god, Kayn's taken over, but at the same time, it also feels like, okay, there's a Kayn. You know, we got to be aware of that. Yeah, he's 50%. So I would expect him to go up at least 1% here. So we'll see. Let's see how it goes. But ultimately good. Neeko, I don't think it's going to matter. She's just got a lot of problems. I don't know. She's super skill shot dependent with her E. Like, you have to hit that for trades pretty much. Her wave clear is okay. She's all right. I mean, I think she's just falling kind of flat. Removing the slow means a lot of people are going to be able to get out of her Pop Blossom. It is a faster jump time, but I just don't think it's gonna matter. I don't think she's terrible. Maybe she is terrible. She's usually played in mid. She's probably sub 50. Is she down in the gutter? She's not all the way down in the gutter. But she's pretty far down, 48. Whatever. She's okay. It's just hard to find a reason to play her. Like, there's not a reason like, oh my god, the team comp is this. I really need Neeko. I mean, I guess she does have the team fight, like, ult, which is good, but I don't know. She's okay. Like, the problem is she just doesn't have a ton of defense. She does get a shield off of that, but she's just very conditional. Like, it feels like if you don't blow people up with that, then they're going to blow you up most of the time, because you have to use, like, your potential escape to go in, and, like, her base stats are so low, it's difficult. Like, I would just rather play something that is going to be more durable, that can go in and do stuff like that. But anyways, Ornn, probably not going to change him. It's nice to get a buff. I mean, extra 35 HP, a little bit of extra armor. It's good. People are starting to play him some in the support role. I tried it out. It's not terrible. I'll talk about it in my support tier list. He might show up in like a top 10 or something. Problem is, games don't go long enough. He's 42% in the support role in gold. Games don't go long enough to really leverage his passive. That's what most people think. Oh, you can give all these thousands of extra gold to your team. But as a support, that's not happening. Now, he can build his items in lane. So in the laning phase, you do end up usually with an extra level or two over the enemy support if you don't have to back. So if you don't take really bad trades, you can buy, you know, your upgraded Targons. You can buy an extra, you know, Ruby Crystal or Sapphire, whatever, to get you extra mana and HP. Or you could buy something like, I think you can buy Rejuve Bead. But you can buy some stuff like that to keep you in the lane. So that does give him some experience. I just don't think it's enough. He does do a lot of damage if you get a hold of people. So he is still, like, he's definitely a force in team fights. And a lot of it is base damage, right? So you can build tank and do a lot of base damage because it's percentage base damage. So it's not like he has to build damage. He doesn't have to build AP, right? He doesn't have to build AD like some of the other kind of like off-meta support picks. So he does have that. He does have, you know, a really powerful ult still. You know, that terrain is very useful in some circumstances. Like Vayne can pin people into that terrain potentially. You know, there are some cute interactions. I believe you can use that terrain to block Sion if Sion's like ulting towards your team. You know, there are some cute interactions with the terrain with him that can work, that can be really good. If you have something like an Anivia or a Jarvan on your team, that's a decent little combo with his E. It's just the problem is he can get poked and bullied out. If you're against another tank type of champion, he might be pretty good into things like Thresh or into things like Blitzcrank or stuff like that. Shout out to Bizzleberry. He did mention that the Unstoppable on Ornn's W, you can use Unstoppable when a hook's about to hit you, for example, or you can block an Ash Arrow or something like that. So that's really nice utility. So if Blitzcrank's about to hook your AD carry, you can step in front W and you're not going to get hooked. Now with Thresh, it does stop kind of the jerk effect on Thresh's hook, but he can still like go over towards you. So, you know, you want to plan around that accordingly. It doesn't stop things like Leona, because she'll just go through you onto the AD carry. But in certain matchups, I think he could be situational. So this is good for like tank, you know, support Ornn potentially. It's not going to help him in top lane. He's still just going to get murdered by most top laners. Maybe jungle it helps. The armor is actually really useful because you get hit by a lot of stuff very often in the jungle. So maybe jungle Ornn, if they slow it down enough to where he doesn't get invaded and busted up. It's just his ganks are pretty terrible pre-6. He's very slow. He doesn't have any ways to, like, go over walls. I think he's still going to be, like, just kind of a niche, potentially for fun pick. We'll see. I wish they gave him his shield back. But the problem is he gets really abused in pro play hard when he's very good. So, okay, Rakan, I'm going to have to feel this out. I didn't play it on the PBE, so trust me, we're going to try it out very soon, probably day 1 when it comes out, because as everybody knows that's watched the channel recently, Rakan's my boy. He's one of the major reasons I got back into Diamonds. He's extremely good right now. But he needed to be nerfed for pro play. So that's just all there is to it. He had a pretty high win rate. Now, I don't know exactly. It looks like probably 6-1, maybe 5-2 out of 7. Remember, if we click on it, it's not going to show us those 7 games for some reason. But during the entire preseason, you know, he's had 72% presence over the last few patches and a 57% win rate, which is really high. So, he's extremely good in pro play. He's very good in high elo. Now, his win rate is not going to be as insane in, like, gold or whatever. He's only got a 47%. But it's because he's fairly challenging to play. I mean, there's a huge delta on him. Like, does it not have that stat anymore? It used to have delta. CS, enemy jungle. I guess they took that away. I really like that stat. This is detailed. I'm pretty sure this is the website that had it, and then it seems like they've taken it away. But they used to tell you what the difference was between someone who has a lot of experience on him and someone who doesn't. Maybe if we click on him. Does it tell us if we click on him? Where'd he go? Okay, here we go. Let me click on him and see. Maybe they just moved it over here. Win rates by tier. Okay, I can't find it right away. It might still be on the site somewhere. But it used to have a delta for you. It would tell you. Oh, here it is. Like how much better people are that have a lot of experience on him. But anyway, so we'll see how it goes. I still think he's going to be strong. Losing 4 armor is significant, but one way you can get around this is if you just take an extra armor rune. They did buff the armor runes recently. You do lose the AP, but you got to remember, most of those AP runes only matter during the laning phase. I mean, having extra 5 AP at, like, you know, 20 minutes into the game is not going to be game breaking. Okay, your shield is going to shield for, like, 3 more, you know, whoa. Like, it's not going to be that crazy, right? I guess it's 10 AP, so that is a little bit more significant. But for the most part, you know, especially if you're going for the Guardian build, you're not going for, like, an Airy plus Scorch, like, hard harass build early on, which I think that build is very outdated now after they nerfed his Q and after they've nerfed Airy and Scorch. I just think the Guardian build is superior. So if you're going for the Guardian build, being able to take something that gives you 6 armor instead of 10 AP, even though the AP is worth more, 10 AP is worth about 220 gold, 6 armor is going to be worth about 120 gold, so you're losing 100 gold, like, technical value there. You're not really maximizing that AP in the laning phase, right? Because you're not going to be completely busting them up with a lot of harass to run them out of lane, right? You're going to be losing a little bit of damage, but it's not like your Zyra. It's not like your Nami, who is, like, consistently putting down damage with that AP. It's like every 9 seconds you get to take a shot at him with your Q, you know, and you're probably going to miss half of them anyways. So I think that this is a fix that can be done by, you know, just taking an armor rune, and you'll even net 2 armor off of that. So basically, you know, you can read this instead of -4 armor, you could read this as minus 8 damage on your Q. Might be a way to think about it, right? I think the Q might even be a 0.6. It doesn't have an insane AP ratio. That's obviously a crude way of looking at it because it does affect your shields later. It affects everything has an AP ratio in his kit. But if you're thinking about most of what you're doing in the laning phase is just chucking these Qs, you know, just think about it like you have a 0.6 here. So you're losing 6 damage on your Q, and you're losing, you know, 7 heal. So you're losing 6 damage and 7 heal every time you hit your Q, which does add up because, you know, your heal is not insane early on, right? But that's a decent trade-off. Maybe you don't even have to do that in some matchups. If they have an AP support, maybe you don't have to do that. So, I don't know. We'll see. But the thing to remember about Rakan also is he does have that heal off of his Q. You can also take more sustained runes if you have to. You know, you could go into Biscuits instead of Nimbus Cloak. You could get something like Biscuits plus Cosmic Insight or Biscuits plus Boots. There are a lot of different things you can do with Rakan to help mitigate that 4 armor. So yes, it does suck losing the 4 armor, but he's so flexible in his runes that you can find ways to work around that. You could take Second Wind more often if you want to do that, if you're not afraid of all ends. So I think there are ways to work around that. This is a little more iffy. I'm going to have to play it and feel it out, but max range casts are slightly later. Now, I don't know what he means by slightly later, so we'll feel it out. The good way to think about this is it used to zip like super fast out there, like almost instantaneous. Now it's basically Alistar speed. Alistar is like 1200 speed on his W. Now Alistar, the thing about Alistar though is he is immediately, once he arrives there, they basically get knocked up. There's still going to be a 0.35 seconds delay on Rakan. So, we'll see. I think it's going to be Alistar-esque, though, because he's still moving faster than Alistar. He's moving about 25% faster than Alistar, because this is going to be like 1,500, 1,600. I guess closer to 1,500 movement speed there. And Alistar is obviously a really good engaged champ. I mean, he was the most picked support right there with Rakan, because they both do similar things. So I think if it's just as effective as like Alistar's ult, now Alistar does more damage off of his and it has a larger radius, but I think it's a fair comparison the way that they've nerfed this. They've turned it into like almost instantaneous into Alistar speed. Are most people in solo queue going to be able to react to that? No. Are pro players going to be able to react to that? Probably. So one thing that I also learned, and I've played hundreds of games of Rakan, I didn't know this, you can actually activate his R while you're in the middle of a W. So you can W in, see if they flash away. If they don't, while you like start your W animation, then you can press R and you're going to, you know, get that charm right when you hit them. So you can fake people out into thinking you're doing a normal W and they're just going to be able to like dash out of it, and then you R. And you maybe catch them off guard like that. So before, that didn't matter too much because you R plus W and it's like instantaneous. But now you can start your W animation. If they don't see the R, if they're like a higher end player, and you feel like you're going to be able to hit them with it, then you can press your R in the middle of W animation. You can't flash while you're Wing. I wish you could do that. I wish they would change that to where now you could flash with the W since you're slower for a fancier play that's riskier because you're going to be using your flash for it. I think that would be fair. But, anyways, like you can flash during Alistar's Q. You can start your Q animation, pulverize, and then flash. But anyways, as it is, I think he'll still be really good. We'll see. So I still think he's an excellent one-trick. I still think that Rakan and Thresh, it's just almost impossible to nerf him out of the meta. It has to be like really extreme nerfs. I don't think this is extreme enough. I don't want them to nerf him more because I love playing him, and he's fun to watch, I think, at a pro level. But anyways, I think he'll be okay. If you have a lot of experience on him. If you're like not that great, once again, if you haven't played him a lot, he still has like a 47% win rate among most people. So okay, we need to finish this up. This is getting way too long. But anyways, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Shyvana, probably not going to matter. Like, you do more damage to dragons. Dragons are already pretty laughable to kill anyways, especially on a champion like Shyvana, who's going to get the attack speed, percentage damage, health, enchantment. So the Flame Breath doing an extra 3.25%. That's important because I believe you, doesn't it mark them and then every time you attack it does that? What I think they should do with Shyvana is just make her like a neutral objective queen, right? So instead of having her do extra damage to dragons, make it to where your entire team gets bonuses based on how many dragons you have. So I would like this where your entire team gets 5 armor and magic resist if you take a dragon, or just some kind of bonus. Maybe you get 1/3 extra bonus off of the dragons that you get, or maybe even half extra bonus off of the dragons. That might be a little extreme, but getting like 1/3 extra bonus. So, you know, with Fire Dragon, for example, everybody would get, 13% extra damage instead of 10% extra damage. You would get 20% extra damage to neutrals instead of 15% off of Mountain Drag. I think that would be good. Then it's a real threat. It's like, wow, we really have to stop her from getting dragon. Whereas right now, it's like, okay, she's going to take dragon quickly, just like every other jungler. You know? So, I don't think it's going to matter. It's like, yeah, you're going to shred it faster, or at least make this apply to Baron. If you made it apply to Baron as well as dragon, I know they want to make her Fury of the Dragonborn, but if they applied this to Baron also, that would be something that would be super valuable. But, like, right now, it's just like, she's a power farmer that's pretty easy to, like, kite and deal with unless she gets super fed late game. Now, if power farming comes back into the game, which it very well might be with some of these jungle changes, and if they nerf early game damage a little bit more, then that could be a thing. Okay, so explodes upon hitting people, and it marks them, right? Yeah. So this is not just a one-time. You deal 3.25 instead of 2.5%. This is like you're going to trigger this several times, especially because I believe her Q is an auto-attack reset, right? Yeah. So you can hit them once, reset, hit them again. So now it's doing 6.25% damage instead of 5% damage. So it does add up over time. It does do a maximum amount to monsters, so it's not going to matter for monsters. But if you get to sit there in melee, especially tanks, you know, she can be very, very dangerous. Now, this, I think they should update this and give her a bit more health. It's like, make this for the modern day. Really? 150 extra health? She's a huge dragon? I think they should make her a bit more intimidating when she's a dragon. So I don't think she's terrible. I think she's okay. I mean, it's not like she needs a ton of help. At higher elos, you know, she might need some more help, like, to kite people. She can take Blue Smite, which does get a bit better with the nerfs to Red Smite. Blue Smite also got nerfed, but I think Red Smite got a bigger nerf. So if you look at, like, jungle at gold, you know, Udyr is kind of the premier power farmer, I guess, right now, at kind of mid-range elos. 49%. I just wish they would make it, like, actually impactful, or just give her bigger stats. Like 5 bonus armor and magic resist is a joke. I mean, it's all right. It's like you basically get like close to 200 gold extra bonus off of it, but why not like 10? You know, make it 400 gold bonus, 10 extra armor and magic resist. That's something that's scary. But anyways, she needs a little bit more help, but I like the ideas. Okay, they're moving in the right direction. All right, Tahm Kench. So basically, I hadn't even thought of this usage as Tahm Kench, but I guess in combat, you could use your ult, like start your ult, and then if your ally clicks on it immediately, you would eat them and start to run away. They can cancel that, but it would still block the damage, I guess. So if, like, you use your W to block, I don't know. Let's say that they hit your Tahm Kench with, I don't know, an Amumu bandage. You use your W to eat them before Amumu ults, and then you spit them back out, and then Ashe tries to arrow, and then you cast your ult after that. Or, yeah, use your W to save from the Amumu ult, and then you use your R to save from an Ashe ult. I guess that's really abusive. I've never actually seen that done before. I didn't think of that. I just thought of the ult as something like, you know, to move around the map and make, you know, macro plays. I didn't think of it as, wow, you basically get an extra W. Now, if they don't cancel your, if they don't hit you, then you're going for a ride. I guess you could just R in place or whatever. But yeah, they're getting rid of that. So I've never even seen that in pro play. I'm sure that happens. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention, but it seems like a very, very niche scenario where that would happen. So anyways, Urgot, 3 armor. That's going to be significant for a lot of his matchups, especially now that Purge is on a longer cooldown, 4 seconds. It's pretty significant early game. 60 extra mana for Corrosive Charge. So I think that early game bullies will have a better time against him. So once again, this is going to be like Camille. Camille's not a super early game bully, but things like Camille, Fiora, Riven especially. I keep saying Riven. I think Riven's a big winner by the nerfs to all of these kind of people that squeeze her out of the meta. That are like really good fighters that are just tankier than she is early. So I think Riven could be a bit stronger here. Darius is going to love this stuff. Darius is going to love all these nerfs to these, you know, early game champs. He already has a pretty decent matchup in most elos against things like Urgot and Irelia. So I think Darius is definitely getting Garen and Darius, especially lower elos, are going to be a lot stronger after this. So pretty good nerfs. I mean, he's overpowered. Like, I think he's the most pick ban champion. He's close. He's picked 19 times in top, 3 times in mid, so that's 22 out of 28 games. And he was banned 6. So he's literally pick banned every single game. So yeah, he definitely needs a nerf. These are some substantial nerfs. So I think this actually helps Aatrox once again. Aatrox. The Irelia and the Urgot are the most substantial nerfs. Aatrox going to get helped a little bit. Who is the other top laner? Jax is going to get helped a little bit by that as well. Okay. Volibear is still not going to matter. It's kind of cool. He gets 8% extra damage, but the thing is most tanks aren't going to have dashes. I mean, I guess you could use this against like Urgot or something. I guess you can use this against, if you're fast enough, maybe with Aatrox trying to jump on you. Riven, I guess, trying to jump on you. If you catch her in her dash. Like, there are some matchups, I suppose, but Riven's not really a tank. She's not going to have a lot of health. I don't know. It's just a really weird change. It's like, okay, tanks that are super mobile that are trying to jump on you, like Zac or something. Maybe you're doing a little bit of extra damage. I think in general, this doesn't fix him. Like, what they need is they need to give him stickiness. Like, he needs to have a way that he can stick to people and run them down, right? So they did give his R kind of like a drifting capability. If they changed his Q to where he just always gets that movement speed like Garen and you don't have to be running towards targets, that would help him out a lot in terms of safety. Because right now he's so dangerous in lane because he has no escapes. And he's not strong enough to 2v1 unless he's really fed. So that's like one of his main issues is that a lot of people can kite him because he has to run straight at him. He doesn't have any sort of dash or gap closer. They could give him something like Udyr where if he gets close enough, then he gets to like dash a little distance. Like maybe he can dash 300 if he gets that close, or 200 at least. But yeah, I think they should just give him this movement speed like Garen's Q so that he can actually run away and split push better. This takes a while to charge up on people. You know, he just requires a lot of prep, a lot of setup. His kit's just really clunky. This is like it's pretty good for team fights, but he just doesn't have... His kit just doesn't make a ton of sense. It just does magic damage and slows people. Maybe if it dropped their armor a little bit, like a Trenemir shout or something. I don't know. He needs more help. I think they know that. I think he's kind of on the rework schedule, although I'm not sure when. Yorick is actually a huge deal because this is going to make the split push a lot better, I think, on him. Because now he can send his goons down the lane, and they're not going to lose a lot of their damage. And he can send her down the lane, and they're not going to lose a lot of damage. Now, I don't know what the decreased damage was, but I think it was significant. So that means he's going to be able to push down the lane with his Mistwalkers. He doesn't even have to use her anymore. And he can take her with him, so you can spawn up your goons and then have them like go with you and rotate over to a dragon or a Baron pit. Whereas before, Maiden could never follow you. She always went to the nearest lane and just auto split push, basically. So now you have a lot more control over Maiden. So I think this is a game changer for Yorick. I think he's going to be really, really strong right now, particularly at lower elos. He's already strong, I'm pretty sure, in top lane at like silver and lower. Maybe I'm making that up. He's not super strong. I mean, he's okay at like gold 51.6, but I think that's going to make Yorick a lot stronger. It's going to make him a real split push threat because those minions are going to do a lot more damage, and he's actually going to be able to rotate over to things like Barons. You can charge up, get some minions off a wave top lane, and then rotate over to Baron. I think that's good. How long do those things last? If they last for a long time, that's going to make him really strong. Can have 4 Mistwalkers under their command. Yorick raises a grave every champion. And it comes up a lot faster, too, now, I think. Did they change that, or did that not go through? Yeah, graves are faster now. So, especially kind of in the mid to late game, they're going to be a lot faster. Do they never die? So you can just take 4 of them with him? He couldn't take them with him, right? Decreased damage when away from Yorick. Target enemies, a Morning Mist. Maybe he could always take them with him, but he couldn't take Maiden with him before, so now he can. So I think that's a really big deal, because you can take because she spawns stuff with her, too. I'm not a Yorick main, obviously. But I'm pretty sure she gets to spawn walkers too. So you could grab however many walkers. You could grab 4 walkers. And then, you know, in the mid game, she can spawn up 3 walkers. You'll have 7, and you can take the whole crew with you to a team fight. So I think that can be very, very significant, especially if you hit somebody with this Morning Mist and like all 7 of those, and she jumps on top of them. Like, that's significant. That's really a big deal. I think, does Black Cleaver apply to them? I don't know that interaction. I'm not, you know, going to go all the way into this, I suppose. I'm not sure if Black Cleaver applies to them. Let me look down here and see. Are considered as a source of physical damage and will trigger Cleaver. Yeah. So you get those Cleavers stacking up huge. You know, Mistwalkers jumping on them, auto-attacking them. I mean, you're almost going to have instant full stack of Cleavers. Now, a lot of times he does go Trinity instead of Cleaver, though, but that's a really strong interaction. And if he gets Death's Dance with this, all of those things doing damage is going to heal him for a lot. Now, I don't know if they count as... they don't trigger Lifesteal, but they do trigger Death's Dance. And you would never get Gunblade on him. But Death's Dance is a real thing. Death's Dance did get buffed recently, too. I mean, I think that could be legit, like a Cleaver Death's Dance build or something on him, and then going tank. Once again, I'm not a Yorick main, but that seems like, especially now that you can bring the Walker and, or what's her name, the Maiden, and all of your Walkers over there, it feels like it's going to be hard as hell to kill you. Because you're going to be healing so much. Physical damage, area of effect damage. I don't know how that affects pets. Because I haven't seen a pet champion that would want Death's Dance. This component is most useful. I'm not sure if that counts as single target or area. Zyra's plants, I believe, count as area, from what I remember with, like, in terms of Ravenous Hunter and stuff like that. But I'm not 100% about that. But he's going to get a lot stronger. I think he's probably MVP of this patch, honestly. I don't know that he's not going to be played in, like, every pro game or whatever, but I think that as far as, like, buffs, I think this is probably, he's definitely, if not the biggest, then one of the biggest buffs on this patch. So I don't necessarily think, once again, we're going to be seeing him every single game, every time, but I think he's a lot better. So if you've been interested in Yorick for a while, now is definitely a time to start thinking about him a bit more. Zyra, this is a joke. She already has insane mana regen. She had 15 mana regen at level 1. Just for context, like Janna and Sona have 11.5. So, like, the mages, like, the hardcore, squishy champions that need to spam their abilities a lot of times have less mana regen than Zyra. Most mages, just by reference, most mages have, like, 8. If you look at, like, Orianna or something like that, she's going to have 8. Syndra's going to have, like, 8. I think Brand might have slightly more. Brand might have, like, 10. But it's just, it's stupid. Like, she gets so much mana regen. So if you have to, you can buy a Fairy Charm early. If you really need that extra mana, you can buy a Fairy Charm and just sell it for 37 for a 37 gold loss later on. Not a nerf at all. She's still going to be extremely powerful, probably the best support at gold and lower. Especially now that they nerfed Brand a little bit more. She gets even better, and she was already better than Brand. So really, really good. And just the way that she trades, the mana doesn't matter because you're waiting on your plants anyways. You're waiting like 18 seconds on your plant to throw down your Qs. You're not just spamming Qs unless you don't know how to play Zyra. You're not just like maxing Q and just spamming that every time it's up with no plants because it just doesn't do enough damage to matter most of the time and you'll just make yourself run out of mana. She's perfectly fine just using your Q for harass every now and then and you won't run out of mana doing that. I didn't run out of mana doing that back when she used to have like 8 mana per 5. So it doesn't matter. She's still great. Evelyn, good quality of life buffs. I mean, you can buffer your E plus your R, which is really nice. Allure not fizzling when people go out of range. Better priority on your hate spike. I think these are really good quality of life buffs for Evelyn, particularly when you're attacking people in traffic, like in the middle of a minion wave or something with the Q. So this isn't like something that pops out like, wow, Evelyn's OP. But these are like 4 like really nice quality of life buffs to Evelyn, and I think she's already pretty good. So I think this is, yeah, well, Okay, she's 49%, so maybe not that good. I feel like she can be good. The nerfs to jungle, I think, are going to help her a lot. Nerfs to early game jungle, so people can't, like, try to invade and shut her down as much. Okay, she's not going to lose out because she can't gank as well early on as some of the other champs because she can still power farm really, really well, so that's good. Kled doesn't matter. I mean, he's an okay champ. This change doesn't matter, I don't think. Minimap targeting, nice. Oblivion Orb, this could matter. This is going to hurt champions like Zyra and Brand in the bot lane. 100 more gold. 5 AP is significant. On Zyra, maybe it's better just to go Haunting Guys now because Morellonomicon kind of sucks anyways. It wouldn't be that much of a loss if you go Haunting Guys because Leandries is so strong on her anyways. You can just go back to the old Leandries plus Rylai's build. Probably be fine. For mid laners, Brand can also rush something like Rylai's early on to help him land his hits more often. He's extremely good with Leandries too. So I think Brand and Zyra can just go Leandries now and be all right. For mid laners, they're probably still going to go Oblivion Orb, like Sork boots into Oblivion Orbs. It's just such a powerful mid-game power spike, and they're going to be able to afford it. You know, the 100 gold for a support is a really big deal because you're broke most of the time, but like as a mid laner, that's like, you know, 1 extra wave, or if you just hit 5 more CS or something during the laning phase, it's going to be pretty close to giving you that 100 gold. So mid laners are probably still going to get it. Supports will probably find a workaround. Sunfire Cape, pretty good buff. I mean, this is going to be good for things top lane that don't get Tiamat that are tanky. So Zion's going to like this, most likely. I don't think Zion gets Tiamat. He might. I'm not sure. But anyways, he could go this in theory. Something like Malachi, something like Mundo, Ornn. A lot of these champs are going to like this change. So this is a pretty good change. Pretty good buff for tanks. Do I think it's going to magically bring all of the tanks back? No. That might happen if they get rid of Conqueror next patch. We'll see. So if you like tanks, stay tuned for that. It's kind of in the rumor mill. They might get rid of Conqueror next patch. But anyways, or at least significantly change it in terms of its true damage. This is a good buff, though. This is a good buff. Not going to affect junglers because junglers go Cinder Hulk and the passive doesn't stack with Cinder Hulk. So it would just be for top laners pretty much. You also don't want to get this as a support because you're not going to be, you know, split pushing with this most of the time. Overheal might make it a bit more interesting. Probably not going to matter that much. Some champions that get Boiler and King, like maybe Vayne would like this, but I still think that Triumph is probably going to be better. Self-heal conversion goes up a lot more. It's possible Vayne might like this a little bit more. I don't think it's going to be a huge deal. Bloodline is okay. Hardly anyone gets this. Maybe if you're in a really tough lane and you want a bit more lifesteal, this could be okay. Cut down is... They're nerfing it? Max health difference rather than flat. I don't know. It's not going to matter. The only person that ever gets this is Karthus sometimes. So... it's not going to matter. Okay, Absolute Focus. This is going to hurt a lot of early game aggression champions that want this, that go down the sorcery tree. So something like Nami, it's going to hurt Nami a little bit, going to hurt Sona. Champions that can heal themselves that also do this early game harass. Cassiopeia, she heals herself with her E, obviously. You can heal yourself off of minions with that too. So it'll hurt Cassiopeia a little bit. It'll hurt... 80 carries, especially ones that take lifesteal early. So like your Lucians and your Vaynes, this is going to hurt because then they're not going to get this extra attack damage early on. So it's okay. Zyra, I haven't been getting this anyways. I've been favoring going the Electrocute build just because I have... I guess in theory with Zyra, you could go for something like Absolute Focus and Scorch instead of Bone Plating or whatever. Sadie, chill. But there are other options. So I don't think it's going to matter for the supports. It probably hurts 80 carries the most and some like oppressive, you know, supports and mid laners that have a heal in their kit. So they stay over 70% while they're also harassing. So pretty good. It's an overpowered rune. I mean, if you just look at the numbers on this thing, going up to 40 ability power near the end game is like 800 gold value. It's just like insane value. So I think that this is a lot more approachable. This is still a 600 gold value near the end of the game. Because remember, 20 AP, or AP is worth about 20 gold each. It's like 21.75. So that's better. They're nerfing adaptive damage, which is good, because that's by far the best one, and they're giving tanks more stuff. So this is going to help particularly like tank supports a little bit more early on. Because they're like the only role that's not usually actively looking for big trades. Even top laners, even tanks top lane a lot of times would have to take adaptive damage so they could actually fight. But like tank supports, this is going to help them out a lot. Like I said, this change is also going to help Rakan a little bit if he needs to do that in certain matchups, right? So if he needs that 6 armor, he's only giving up 9 adaptive damage now instead of 10, and he's gaining 6 armor instead of 5. So, you know, to make up for that armor nerf, you could take 1 armor rune instead of adaptive damage and be okay in the laning phase, I think. Summoner Ignite, this is a really big deal. God, this video is going way longer than I wanted it to. But this is a really big deal. I mean, that's a lot less damage. That's like 100 less true damage. That's like 200 less total damage. Remember, true damage, a good way to think of it is double damage. That's not really precise in terms of mathematics, but that's just a good rule of thumb, is true damage is basically equal to double damage. That's a lot later on in the game. So this is going to hurt your all-in single rotation assassins that don't overkill people, that aren't super fed. So like a Diana, Talon, Zed, especially like in the early game, it's going to hurt them a lot. In the bot lane, all-in champs like Leona get a lot weaker. Thresh gets a lot weaker. Zyra and Brand do get a bit weaker, but they are ranged, so sometimes they can't always get in range to apply that ignite, depending on the situation. But they usually do an excessive amount of damage anyways. I don't know. Ignite does hurt them, but I think they're so strong anyways, they can handle it, especially Zyra. But you can do it more often, so I think particularly for champions that have the potential to kill people a lot, you just need that little bit of extra damage off of Ignite. Having a lower cooldown is really nice. So like Zyra, for example, usually if she has Ignite up, she's going to overkill a lot of people, especially once she gets like Sorcerer Boots. So once again, the all-in champs that like have to have it, or they're just not going to be able to kill somebody on cooldown, is going to hurt, but other champs going to help. So obviously this is going to be a huge help to Soraka. This up here was also a huge buff to Soraka, the Oblivion Orb, because less people might get Morellonomicon, or less people might be tempted to complete it, especially because it has 10 less ability power. So people may not get this as much against Soraka. If they're smart, they will, but they just might not, right? And, you know, some of this might bait people into taking Exhaust instead of Ignite in the bot lane, which is going to help out Soraka. So anything that's like a squishy support bot lane is going to love this change. You're probably still going to have to take Ignite as Nami and Sona and Rakan and things like that, but now it's a lot less likely you're going to get blown up by your Leonas, your Zyras, your Brands, and stuff like that. So I think it's a good win. I think it's great for diversity. Maybe especially in other lanes, people might start taking teleport or heal or other stuff more. So I think it's good. Ignite was just so overpowered. I mean, you know, early game, like 120 true damage. That's like more damage than most ults. Like, and it cuts healing. It's pretty ridiculous. So I like they changed it. Okay, if you sneak Baron at like 20 minutes, it's going to be a lot weaker. It doesn't change the minions, though. The minions are the huge thing, I think. Damage scaling. Oh, actually, it does change the minions. I take that back. It does change the minions. Minion damage reduction versus champions. Is that... I think their grammar is off there. I think that's champion damage reduction against minions. So minions take this much less damage against champions, rather than minions do less damage to champions. I don't know. Either way, Baron's going to be less impactful, so this is good. Overall, because Baron is just like basically you get it. It's so hard to come back in a lot of games. It needs to be strong. It needs to be impactful, but it needs to be not just like, oh, we want to fight at 22 minutes. We go take Baron. Game's over. You know, I like for there to be a little bit more like comeback potential. So that's nice. And they're strengthening up the turret, so it's going to be a lot harder to break those base turrets, which once again I think is helpful. So slowing down the game a little bit. I expect games will maybe slow down an extra 2 minutes or so on average with these changes. 2 to 3 minutes, something like that. So I think that's good. I think a healthy game time is probably about 30 minutes, 25 to 30, and I think that I don't know the exact number, but I feel like it's a bit faster than that a lot of times, or at least there's a lot of variance. It can end really quickly. Jungle camp experience. I'm not going to go too far into this just because we're already at 1 hour and 30 minutes. We'll have to see how this plays out. I'm not a grand master of jungle, but just 6 of the top 10, yesterday when we looked on stream, 6 of the top 10 people that are playing at the very end of, like, in solo queue ladder right now are junglers. 6 of the top 10 players are junglers. That's a problem. Jungle is too strong right now. With the introduction of Scuttle, there's just too much power, especially for early game jungles that can bully. So, like, Lee Sin, Camille, Xin Zhao, you know, just stuff like that is just way, way too good right now. Like, just the perma-gank, get your Scuttle, you know, go, like, you know, just camp a lane every time, just camp, 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 until the person AFKs out of the game. It's just not really fun for a lot of laners, and there's no risk, hardly, because you can just go get your camps later. Go get your camps after you kill them. You know, you can just go sit in a bush, you kill them bot lane, okay, you go back, you get an item, run through your camps really quick, you know, in 30 to 45 seconds, then just go camp them again for another 30 to 45 seconds. So I think that's just kind of an anti-fun playstyle for laners. I do think that junglers should have an impact, but I think there should be a risk. You know, if you are a Camille and you sit in that bot lane bush for 30 seconds waiting on a gank, and Shyvana takes 2 of your camps, that should be meaningful. You should fall behind if that gank fails. If the gank succeeds, I think that you should still gain an advantage over the power farming jungler. But they need to think about it like, okay, a gank needs to be worth, like, a successful gank needs to be worth, like, maybe 2 camps or something like that, right? And so if it fails, you need to be, if the power jungler is doing their job and they can go grab a couple of camps, they should have an advantage on you. But right now, that just doesn't happen enough. So this is lowering the experience. So it's tough to say because a lot of times power farmers are looking for levels and they're looking for gold as well. But like champions that scale really well off of items and the levels don't matter as much, they're probably the people that are going to like this the most. So people that can function on low levels but like the gold of power farming. I don't know who those would be. Like maybe Shyvana, maybe Nunu. Champions that don't have 3 great skills, but maybe they only have 2 great skills. So it doesn't matter. Like they just have a nice 1-point wonder. I'm not sure. I don't know. But overall, it's going to weaken the jungle, and I think that's good because jungle's too strong right now. Jungle shouldn't be like 2 levels up on bot lane. It shouldn't be the same level differential as mid or top lane. Just because they have so much outsized influence on the lanes. Like mid and top lane, it's presumed, you know, if you go roam, you're losing experience, right? You're losing gold, you're getting pushed to tower, it is risky. If you go lane, or if you go gank and it fails, that's a risk. Right now in the jungle, it feels like it's not as much of a risk to gank, and so that's the difference. Is that you shouldn't be allowed to have that much pressure on lanes of your choice, go anywhere that you want, have that much freedom to have that much pressure and still not fall behind mid laners and top laners in terms of experience. When you're going into those lanes, you're leeching that experience too after you get those kills, right? Even if you don't take all the gold, if you help them push, you're getting that experience as well. And so it's just, jungle's just too strong. I don't think everyone has to go back to like AFK farm junglers or like support 2.0 junglers of like season 2, but I think there is a happy medium, and I think this is a reasonable step in that direction. Okay, smite changes. It's going to hurt dueling junglers, so this is going to help things like Ivern, and it's going to help things like Nunu, maybe Shyvana, Evelyn. Some of these champs that really don't want to fight early on, I think it's going to be pretty helpful. Okay, and that's it. Hour and a half. Don't want to do any more than that. So thank you very much for watching. If you enjoy the content, be sure to like and subscribe. I will have tier lists for every single role on this patch. I do have some school stuff going on tomorrow, so I'll try to see if I can get the support tier list in by tomorrow. Then I'll certainly do all of the rest of them over the weekend, over the next couple of days. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, that's going to be it. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.